What's up everyone, we're going to be going through the best NBA player props on PrizePicks today. Now don't forget to like this video as it does let me know to continue to give you free picks every day. So make sure to like this video clicking that button down below. And if we get 500 likes, I will do another video for tomorrow. Now I did want to show you the results from yesterday's picks from my exclusive Discord group. And as you guys see, we actually got 19 picks correct, which was absolutely insane. So we're on a huge hot streak. But if you want to get 19 picks right like me, win more bets and receive the best picks from some of the best bettors in the world for less than a cup of coffee, you can access the exclusive Discord and meet some of the best sport bettors in the game by joining my Patreon, which will be linked down below in the description. Once you join, you'll have complete access to the Discord and can start winning more bets today. So make sure to join my Patreon using the link in the description. And here's one of our members who just signed up and won himself $2,500 just yesterday. Another member who won $300 for the 5th day in a row since joining my Discord. So guys, if you want to win big money like our members, the link will be in the description. So go join the Patreon to have access to the Discord group. And I will be continuing to upload every single day on this channel, the best bets and props. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my daily uploads. So quick shout out to Joey Salas 1029 who said new member, can't wait to follow them greens, and shouts out to Junior 28901 who said let's eat. So shouts out to them, and if you do want to win a shout out in the next video, all you have to do is comment down below in this video and like it, and you can be in the running to win a shout out in the next one. Alright, so let's get straight into the first pick. And when it comes to these picks, I'm not saying to chuck all of them into a parlay and hope for the best. Pick and choose the ones that you like and the ones that work best for you. So the first pick we talked about is Colin Gillespie, and this one is for 16.5 points and assists, and this one actually is for more. Now looking at Colin, we actually have seen him go on the over in 2 out of the last 5 games. Looking at those 5 games, we see on January 10th faced off against New York Knicks, had 8 points and assists there. January 12th faced off against Washington Wizards, had 7 points and assists in that matchup. Then 14 points and assists against Miami Heat on January 14th. January 16th faced off against Detroit Pistons and had 24 points and assists there. So looking at that, we also did see in their most recent game against the New York Knicks on January 18th actually had 17 points and assists. So we have seen Colin Gillespie actually do a fantastic job, you know, in some of those games, and other games hasn't really done too well. Now his average over the last 5 is actually 14. But coming into this next matchup, we do know that Colin and the Phoenix Suns have themselves a really good matchup against the Brooklyn Nets. Now looking at where both these teams do lie, starting off with the Phoenix Suns, Phoenix have surprised quite a lot of people so far this season, because I do believe not many people knew they would be in this position, but they currently sit at the 7th spot in the Western Conference. So they are much better this year than they were last year, even though they did lose KD, but they have been able to turn it around, and they have 25 wins and 17 losses under their belt with a 59.5% win percentage there. They're also 14-5 from home, 11-12 from away, and are currently on a 1-game win streak. So looking at that, we have actually seen that the Phoenix Suns face off against a Brooklyn Nets team who are in the Eastern Conference, and they rank a lot worse as they come in at the 13th spot in the Eastern Conference, and they have a record of 12 wins and 28 losses. So that's a 30% win percentage there. On top of that, we see they are 6-15 from home, 6-13 from away, and are currently on a 1-game losing streak. So very interesting to see there. Obviously looking at, you know, Phoenix and Brooklyn both are in different conferences, but also are ranked pretty differently. Now looking at this one, obviously we are looking at points and assists, but looking at Brooklyn Nets and where they do rank defensively, starting off with points allowed, we see that the Brooklyn Nets do come in a pretty interesting position as they rank 10th, allowing 114 points per game. So they do allow a decent amount, and then looking at assists allowed, we see that the Brooklyn Nets do rank a little bit worse as they rank 25th, allowing 27.7 assists per game. So they do allow a lot of assists there. Now points, they do rank a little bit higher for sure, but a big reason why we do like the over for this situation is that when we look on a per position basis, we do see that the Brooklyn Nets do very much struggle at restricting points and assists to the guard position. So for that reason, we are definitely liking the over for this situation here. For someone like Colin, although he has struggled in some of these matchups, you do also have to realize that he did face off against much tougher defensive matchups. And yes, he did struggle, but I do believe those games has now brought this line a little bit too low, that now there's a lot more value actually to go on the over. And looking at this matchup between Brooklyn and Phoenix, both are very fast-paced teams. So coming into this matchup, we are expecting a lot of pace, and a lot of pace should definitely lead to a lot more volume in the points category and assists. Now, looking at what the pros do have to say about this, obviously, when we look at points and assists, we see that they actually have him for 17.5. So it is a little bit of a different line there. So for that reason, we can't really look at what the bookies are saying. But looking at the projection, it does agree with us because they actually have projected for 18.2 points and assists. Now, when you do the quick math, you do actually see 18.2 points and assists. That is for the over. So we are agreeing with the projection there. It definitely works out in our favor because when we also look at the last 15 games, we do see a similar sort of trend where he has gone on the over more than he's going on the under, going on the over in 60% of those matchups. Now, not only that, but we do also know when it comes to Colin Gillespie, we do know that, as I mentioned before, he has had a little bit of that rough patch in between where he did face off against tougher matchups and he definitely did struggle at scoring and also playmaking. But now that I do believe it's brought this line very much lower, especially on PrizePicks, because as we mentioned before, the bookies have a very different line. So we see a lot of value there for in the PrizePicks area for the over for this situation here. So Colin Gillespie for 16.5 points and assists for more, I think is a fantastic pick. Getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about none other than Ivica Zubac. Now, this one is actually for 30.5 points, rebounds, and assists, and this one actually is for more. Now, looking at Ivica Zubac and looking at him over the last 5 games, we have seen him go on the over in 2 out of the last 5. Now, looking at those 5, we see on January 8th, faced off against New York Knicks, had 35 points, rebounds, and assists there. Then January 10th, faced off against Brooklyn Nets, had 15 points, rebounds, and assists. Then had 24 points, rebounds, and assists, or PRA, against Detroit Pistons. And that was on January 11th. Then after that, January 13th, faced off against Charlotte Hornets and had 22 PRA there. Then 32 PRA against Toronto Raptors on January 17th. So very, very interesting to see. Obviously, looking at that, we have seen Ivica Zubac, as I mentioned, go on the over in 2 out of the last 5. But what we also have seen when it comes to this is that when it comes to Zubac, his average over the last 5 is also 25.6. Now, this is definitely going to be an interesting matchup because what we do see is that the LA Clippers face off against the Washington Wizards. So interesting matchup there. Now, looking at where both these teams do lie, starting off with the LA Clippers. Clippers haven't really done the greatest job so far because they find themselves in a little bit of a tough situation as they are ranked 11th with 18 wins, 23 losses. That's a 43.9% win percentage. And on top of that, they are 11-9 from home, 7-14 from away, but are currently on a 5-game win streak. So they've definitely done a great job and they are hoping to continue to push even further. Now, looking at this matchup, we do also know they face off against a Wizards team that are in the Eastern Conference, but they have a record that puts them at the 14th spot in the Eastern Conference with 10 wins and also 31 losses. So that's a 24.4% win percentage there, 6-13 from home, 4-18 from away, and are currently on a 6-game losing streak. So very, very interesting to see there because, both of these teams have definitely struggled all season. But looking at the Wizards and where they do rank, we see that they rank 29th when it comes to points allowed, actually allowing 123.9 points per game. Then when we look at assists allowed, they also rank 29th, allowing 29.1 assists per game. And then after that, we also do see when it comes to rebounds allowed, we also do see Wizards ranking pretty poorly as they rank 30th, allowing 47.5 rebounds per game. So definitely looking at this, we do actually see that Obviously Washington Wizards have definitely struggled defensively, and that's just a big reason why we do very much like the over for someone like Zubac. Now, we also do see that Wizards do struggle at, restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the center position. So it definitely, helps us there for sure. But coming into this next one, a real big reason for this is not only that, but we also do see when it comes to Ivica Zubac is that, he has had some pretty tough matchups as of lately. And I do believe those matchups, it's brought this line a little bit too low, that now there's a lot more value actually to go on the over. So for that reason, I do very much like the over for this situation here for someone, like Ivica Zubac. Now, Zubac has also been playing great at times, but when he does get matched up with a tougher matchup, it definitely does get a little bit difficult. But looking at what the pros do have to say, so the pros do have him for a different line as well, as the pros do have him for actually 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So a little bit of a different line there. But looking at this, we do also know that when we look at what the bookies are saying, it is kind of difficult to go off what they are saying because it is a different line there. So looking at Ivica Zubac, we do see that the projection that they do have is 30.6 points, rebounds, and assists. And the reason why this is interesting, because obviously they have him for the under here because of the line. But technically, for us, this is technically the over because we have him for 30.5. So we do very, very much like and agree with the projection here. As for us, it does actually see the over for this one. So I definitely would keep an eye out for the over for someone like Ivica Zubac coming into this game. Now, when we actually look at his last 15 games and look at the line that we do have, which is 30.5, yes, he has struggled. He's only gone on the over in 33% of those games. But as I've always mentioned, matchups. That's what's most important. And with a matchup like this against Wizards, who pretty much rank almost last in every single category, we do very much believe in the over for someone like Zubac and be able to take advantage of this. So Ivica Zubac, 30.5 points, rebounds, and assists for more, I think is a fantastic pick. So getting into the next pick, we're going to be talking about none other than Naji Marshall. So Naji Marshall, great player. And this one is for points and rebounds for 20.5. And this one actually is for more. Now, looking at Naji, we actually have seen him go on the over in 4 out of the last 5 games. Now, this is very, very good to see because we saw January 11th faced off against Chicago Bulls, had 18 points and rebounds there. January 13th faced off against Brooklyn Nets, had 26 points and rebounds in that matchup. After that, 29 points and rebounds against Denver Nuggets on January 15th. January 16th faced off against Utah Jazz, had 28 points and rebounds, and then 21 points and rebounds against Utah on January 18th. So very, very interesting to see. Obviously, looking at Naji Marshall and those last 5 games, we do also see that when it comes to, Naji, he has also had an average over the last 5 of 24.4. Now, when we look at this, we do also know that, Dallas Mavericks have themselves a very good matchup against the New York Knicks. And looking at the matchup between both of these teams and where both these teams do rank, starting off with actually Dallas Mavericks, Dallas have definitely struggled a little bit this season. They have been fighting a lot of injuries and it's definitely been a little bit tough for them, but they actually come in at the 12th spot in the Western Conference, and they also have a record of 17 wins and 26 losses. So that's a 39.5% win percentage there. On top of that, they are 13-11 from home, 4-14 from away, and are currently on a 2-game win streak. For that reason, it is definitely interesting to see because Dallas Mavericks have definitely tried to push and trying to change this season around, but they are, experiencing a lot of injuries. And looking at their matchup, which is the New York Knicks do come in at the 3rd spot in the Eastern Conference, and they have a record of 25 wins and 17 losses. So a much better record there. They have 59.5% win percentage. On top of that, they are 16-5 from home, 8-12 from away, and are currently on a 3-game losing streak. So very, very interesting to see there. Now, looking at Naji Marshall and also Dallas and the matchup against the Knicks, we do also see New York Knicks defensively. We do actually see, starting off with points allowed, that they do rank 12th, actually allowing 114.9 points per game. On top of that, we also do know rebounds allowed. We see that the New York Knicks rank 5th, actually allowing 41.8 rebounds per game. So Knicks do a pretty good job, at points, but they do even a much better job at rebounds. But why do we like the over for this situation here? Now, a big reason being is that when we actually look at Naji Marshall and the Dallas Mavericks, we do know they play him at forward, and New York Knicks do actually struggle at restricting points, rebounds, and also even assists just to Naji's position. So for that reason, we are definitely liking the over for it. But a bigger reason why this is an occurrence for us is because we have seen Naji's usage rate definitely increase over the last couple of games. And this is due to the fact of the major injuries that Dallas has faced so far, which has put, Naji Marshall in a position that has had him in a higher usage rate position, getting more points and getting more rebounds. And I do believe that the line hasn't really adjusted just yet to his increase in his usage rate, but we definitely have been keeping an eye on Marshall, and we have seen his usage rate definitely increase, minutes increase, all these different things, and we are expecting that similar sort of situation to happen again in this next game for sure. Now, when we look at what the pros do have to say, obviously we have him for 20.5 points and rebounds. However, they actually have him for 21. So there's a bit of a different line here. So it is kind of difficult to go off, their line and make a comparison there, because it is a very much of a different line. But looking at the projection, they have him projected for 14.9. Now, if we talked about, before Dallas Mavericks had their major injuries, I would say, yeah, okay, we can see him going on the under. But I don't believe that the projection, even the bookies, have taken into account the increase that we've seen from Naji Marshall, and we are expecting that to happen in this next game for sure. So we are going against a projection here coming into this game. When we look at the last 15 matchups, he is pretty 50-50 when it comes to the last 15. He's gone on the over in 46% of those matchups, so he's gone on the under in roughly around 54, 53. So, obviously very, very close to a 50-50 mark here. But when you just look at the latest trend, you definitely see that increase in his usage rate. And we are definitely expecting that sort of similar situation coming into this next game. So for that reason, Naji Marshall, 20.5 points and rebounds for more, I think is a fantastic pick. So getting into the next pick, we're going to be talking about Brice Sensabaugh. So as you all know, he's a fantastic player, and this one is for points, rebounds, and assists, or PRA, and this one is for more. Now, looking at Brice, we actually have seen him go on the over in 4 out of the last 5 games. Looking at those 5 games, we see on January 11th, faced off against Charlotte Hornets, had 29 points, rebounds, and assists there. January 13th, faced off against Cleveland Cavaliers, had 8 points, rebounds, and assists. January 15th, faced off against Chicago Bulls, had 50 PRA in that matchup, so absolutely did fantastic there. 33 PRA against Dallas Mavericks on January 16th. Then January 18th, faced off against Dallas again off a back-to-back and had a 33 PRA there. So we have seen Brice do a fantastic job over the last 5 games, and his average over the last 5 is also 30.6. Now, looking at Brice and also Utah Jazz, they have themselves a very good matchup coming into this next one against none other than San Antonio Spurs. So it is definitely going to be an exciting game between both of these teams. Now, looking at where both of these teams do lie, starting off with Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz come in at the 13th spot in the Western Conference. They have a record of 14 wins and 28 losses. That's a 33.3% win percentage. And on top of that, they are 9-12 from home, 5-16 from away, and are currently on a 3-game losing streak. So very, very interesting to see there. Now, looking at their matchup, they face off against the San Antonio Spurs, where the Spurs do come in at the 2nd spot in the Western Conference, and they have a record of 29 wins and 13 losses. A 69% win percentage there, 15-5 from home, 13-8 from away, and are currently on a 2-game win streak. So very, very interesting to see, because obviously looking at both of these teams, I would say both are on, opposite sides of the Western Conference. Now, looking at Spurs and where they do rank defensively, we do actually see that Spurs rank 7th when it comes to points allowed, actually allowing 112.7 points per game. On top of that, when we look at assists allowed, we also do see that the Spurs come in at the 12th spot and actually allow 26.2 assists per game. And then rebounds allowed, Spurs rank 8th, allowing 42.8 rebounds per game. So pretty interesting to see. Obviously, looking at that, we do also see that, Brice has actually, gone on the over quite consistently, but they face off against a tough Spurs team. So why do we like the over for this situation here? Now, a big reason being is that when we actually look at Brice, we are actually seeing him play that power forward position very well. And we do see that Spurs do actually struggle at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the power forward position. Now, don't get me wrong, they do a great job when it comes to centers because of someone like Victor, but for power forward positions, we definitely see, Brice being able to take advantage of Spurs not really doing well there and being able to go on the over for this one. Now, when we look at Utah Jazz as well, we are expecting a couple of injuries in this matchup when it comes to this Utah Jazz team. They may be sitting out a couple of players. Now, it isn't definitely certain, but, the fact that some players have definitely sat out over the last couple of games and are expecting them to sit out once again, we definitely could see, Utah Jazz arrest some of them for sure coming into this next one. When it comes to that, Lauri Markkanen was actually out recently and is also ruled out for this Spurs game. Now, anything can definitely still change, but that's just kind of the case right now. Same with Niang. Niang is expected to be out as well. So those are two big forwards that are out. So, and that's one of the reasons why we have seen Brice as well going the over quite consistently. He's been able to kind of take advantage of his new role, be able to provide a lot more out there. And I do believe that Utah are giving him that high usage rate that he's always wanted. So, it's definitely worked out for him there. Now, looking at Brice as well and looking at what the bookies have to say when it comes to the pros. Now, we do actually see it is a little bit of a different line. Obviously, we have him for 24.5 while the bookies have him for 25. So it is a different line. So that's why it is kind of difficult to go off what the bookies are saying because it's a very, very different line there. But when we look at the projection, we are actually going a little bit against the projection here because they have him projected for 13.9 points, rebounds, and assists. So as an actual watcher of this video, you probably will see that it is significantly on the under when it comes to projection, but I don't think they're taking into account the injuries and also the high usage rate that Brice has had so far. So we are going a little bit against the projection here. Now, when we look at the last 15, he's only gone on the over in 33.3% of those games, so not a lot of times. But as I mentioned before, you start to see that a lot of those games where he has done very, very well has been as of recent due to the injuries that Utah Jazz has. So I do believe the injuries and also the matchup against Spurs where they do actually, struggle against that power forward position. We definitely see Brice just being able to take advantage of this as he has been able to do over the last couple of games as well. So coming into this next one, we are definitely liking the over for it. So Brice Sensabaugh, 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists for more, I think is a fantastic pick. All right, so let's get straight into the next one. And getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about Jarrett Allen. And this one is for 13.5 points, and this one actually is for less. Now, looking at Jarrett Allen, we have seen him go on the under in 4 out of the last 5 games. Looking at those 5 games, you see on January 9th, faced off against Minnesota Timberwolves, had 11 points there. January 11th, faced off against Minnesota again off a back-to-back and had 16 points in that matchup. January 13th, faced off against Utah Jazz and had 8 points there. After that, faced off on January 15th against Philadelphia 76ers, had 10 points in that matchup. And January 17th, faced off against Philly and had 10 points there. So we definitely have seen Jarrett Allen, unfortunately, struggle quite a bit. But that does work out in our favor because we do like the under for this situation here. Now, we do see when it comes to Jarrett Allen that his average over the last 5 is also 11. So it is below this line for sure. And looking at Jarrett Allen and the Cleveland Cavaliers, coming into this next matchup, they face off against none other than Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, looking at the matchup between both of these teams and where both of them do actually rank, starting off with Cleveland. Cleveland come in at the 5th spot in the actual Eastern Conference. They have a record of, 24 wins and 19 losses. Now, they have a 55.8% win percentage, 14-10 from home, 10-9 from away, and are currently on a 2-game win streak. So that does give them the 5th spot in the Eastern Conference, as we mentioned, and they face off against an Oklahoma City Thunder team who have done much, much better because OKC currently sit at the number 1 spot in the Western Conference, and also not just that, but have the #1 record in the NBA. Now, they have a record of 35 wins and 8 losses. That's an 81.4% win percentage. And on top of that, we also do see that they are 20-2 from home, 15-5 from away, and are currently on a 1-game losing streak. So very, very interesting to see. But looking at, OKC coming into this matchup defensively, we do know Oklahoma City Thunder, when it comes to points allowed, we see that they actually rank #1. So they are the best defensive team when it comes to restricting points. And not only that, but they actually restrict teams to 108 points. Now, they are the only team in the NBA as of right now to actually allow a team less than 110 points. So they are, in a kind of era of their own when it comes to defense, because Oklahoma City's defense has been absolutely fantastic all season. And what they do better than anyone is restricting points for sure. Now, when we look at OKC, we also do know that they have also done a fantastic job on a per position basis. They've done a fantastic job against, the center position. So coming into this matchup, unfortunately, we definitely see someone like Jarrett Allen going on the under here. When we look at Allen over the last 5 games as well, that definitely does play, a bit of a factor for us there as well, due to the fact that Jarrett just has definitely struggled at being able to score at this rate. Now, coming into this matchup, we do also know that although OKC are a faster paced team, Cleveland do like to play a little bit slower pace, but we are expecting OKC to actually slow down to Cleveland's pace. So we aren't expecting an increase or speeded up sort of pace coming into this game. And as we always mention, pace does, lead to volume, and the fact that they are going to be playing a much slower game or more of Cleveland's pace, we aren't really expecting an increase there. Now, looking at Jarrett and what the pros do have to say, now they do have actually a different line from us. They have him for 12.5 points. However, this is where we really see a very interesting thing, because we actually see that Jarrett Allen, although his line is 12.5, so it is different, we also still do see that they have him favored for the under as well. So us having him for 13.5 is actually a really, really good sign, because it shows that even, 1 point less, they are still favoring for the under. So it actually just gives us more leeway to actually go in the under here. Now, when we look at the projection, this one is where it gets pretty interesting, because obviously looking at this, we do know that the projection they do have is 13. Now, it does say over here, because the projection line, or the consensus line, apologies, is 12.5. But to us, we have them for 13.5. So 13 is actually for the under. So we are technically agreeing with the projection still. So for that reason, it definitely does work out in our favor. When we look at the last 15, it also does show it as well. I think we all do know that Jarrett Allen isn't really the main scorer for this Cavaliers team. He tends to play a little bit more of just rebounding, playing defense. That's usually his role for his team. And yes, he has had some big games in the past, like against Spurs, but we do believe it's now overinflated this line, which is why he's going on the under in pretty much 54-ish% of the last 15 games. So coming into this next one, we are definitely liking the under for it. So Jarrett Allen, 13.5 points for less, I think is a fantastic pick.